Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Commission Breath, the first episode of 2025. We're coming back. Tom's got a fresh haircut.
Fresh
He's
fucking cut. Let's
looking
go.
schnazzy. I have no hair. Nothing's changed there. Consistency in
You
the
you've got a
business.
guitar though.
Yeah, put a little depth in the shot for you there, Tom.
I love it. I noticed it, man. I noticed it.
Just for you. But yeah, so I hope everyone had a fantastic holiday break. I feel like a lot of us finished the year strong and the momentum was coming back. And that was a good feeling because for a while there, we all know it wasn't there. Our deals were popping to RBC and just things weren't always positive on the brokering front. But I feel like the end of the year really turned a page and going into 2025 with some renewed optimism.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be more opportunity this year. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be like a boom market, but I think we all kind of have that feeling that it's going to be a lot better than what we've seen over the last couple of years in 2023 and 2024. So, I mean, if you're sitting there and your business was either the same as the year prior or it was up, then you're in good hands because I would imagine that this year is going to be much better for you as well. Or if you're on the other side of things, if your business was down, then hopefully it should be better for you. Some
Yeah,
optimism.
hopefully it stabilizes a bit. Like there was some people we talked to with wild swings in the amount of their volume, and it's like, okay, well, you had really fantastic COVID year, then you stopped prospecting because of that, and you saw the results of that in your business. So, it's just really a matter of perspective, and for some people they ran it as a sprint. We prefer to run it more as a marathon, consistently growing and adding those pieces to our business. But that's something we're going to talk about today is how to actually hit the goals you have for 2025. And not everyone's goals are going to be the same. Not all of them are tied to volume and performance. Some of you might have goals surrounded more personal stuff or spending more time away from your business, which is fantastic as well. But we are going to share some insights into how to actually hit those goals this year.
Yeah, that's a good point. It doesn't have to be a mortgage goal, like a volume goal or financial goal. It can be a health goal. It can be a relationship goal. But I think the really cool part about that is whatever goal that you're trying to attain, let's just say you're going for that one main goal. Chances are, if you focus on that one goal and you have your daily habits set out and you achieve that goal by the end of the year, chances are it's going to seep into other aspects of your life. And to give you an example, like if I have a volume goal and I hit it, chances are I'm going to have more money in my bank account. That's going to alleviate some stress for me and my family because we can kind of go out for more date nights. We can go on more trips. You know what I mean? Like it seeps into other aspects of your life. Just because you pick one goal in one category doesn't mean you're set on that and it's only going to improve that one category for the year.
For sure. Anything you improve has residual effects. Like I find like right now, I'm like 2 months into no drinks. I'm getting a lot more work done on weekends just because I'm actually bored. I'm spending more time with family because I'm not going out with buddies as much. Like just different things like that, right? So it has an impact across your whole business. The number one thing I see a lot is people who start getting in like better shape physically, their business improves, and they don't always see the correlation, but it's because you're consistent with something like fitness and you actually have confidence, which reflects in your sales. So there's a lot of things that like one domino pushes another, and rising tide lifts all ships there.
Well, yeah, and if you're going for the health goal, you're going to have more energy, and that energy is going to be put towards something hopefully productive, and that could be your business. So, anyways, that's a little tangent, but I think it's important to kind of touch on that because you don't have to go for a financial goal. It can be anything that you think is the most that is a priority in your life. Maybe you are sitting here and you're like, man, I actually have my business figured out. It's the health side of things that I've been lacking. Maybe that this is your year to kind of enhance that a little bit. So let's just start off with the goal planning. Like we're not going to sit here and give you like a 30-minute play-by-play on like how to like business plan because like in my opinion, I think spending too much time business planning is a waste of time because from my experience doing that in the past, chances are through the year you're going to change that plan. It's going to kind of deviate from your original set. So I always like to just set like maybe like a 1-page marketing plan. I actually didn't really do any huge planning this year. All I wanted to focus on was what's my 1 to 2 goals and what do I have to do from a daily activity perspective to hit those goals? And that's all I'm focusing on. I just took out all the rest of the clutter. So if we were going to set goals, a lot of people set more than one, but I actually suggest if you can just set one goal. Maybe it's two. For me, it's two. Brandon, do you like what? How many goals do you have set for this year?
So I have like I set different pillars. So it'll be like business, where I have two goals. Like I have our Tango goal and what we look to accomplish for brokers and agents, and then I have our North Shore goal, which is like our independent book of business. So that's like two financial goals in business. I have a health goal. I always set like a family goal, and investing. So I've got like different pillars and one or two things under each one. I find they all kind of contribute to another. Like you said, if I have a really good business year, obviously the investment goal is easier to achieve. Similarly, with the health, it usually has a positive impact on the family side. But I like to do it that way because I'm a big fan of auditing myself, as unsexy as that word is. I find that when you really can look at it year over year and say, okay, this is what I excelled in, this is what I failed in each individual category, it gives you a really clear path forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because it defines if you're hitting all those benchmarks, then you're going to set yourself up properly. And I used to do that too. I think last year I did that where I did two for each category, and then I had like one of those categories to be like the I think we call it like major definite purpose. I forget what I called it. It's like past training I took years ago. But now for me, I think like from a mental perspective, if I know I just have these two goals that I'm working towards, the rest will follow. So it's just more of a preference for me. I just like to declutter and just have the 1 to 2. But yeah.
It is definitely easier to laser in on the one. 100%. The more you can strip away, the better your focus is going to be. And then you don't have to sit there being like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? It's like, no, our goal is to hit X. Like, just go and do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, so now that we've kind of defined like, hey, how many goals should you set? Like find out your style and what you want to do there. Now you want to edit your or audit your time. So this is really step 2 of how to actually hit your goals in 2025. So Brandon, why don't you start us off with auditing your time? Because you're very, very strict and you're really good at doing this.
yeah, so I use Toggle, Toggl. We've talked about this a bunch of times on the podcast before, but basically I track everything I do. So you just put in, like right now I wrote in podcast and it's tracking how much time we spend on the podcast. When I'm working on the brokerage, I'll just put in brokerage. When I'm prospecting, etc. Like each individual thing, so that it was kind of nice. Like I could go over my entire 2024 and pull my numbers from the Toggle site and be like, okay, I spent X hundred hours underwriting. I spent X hundred hours prospecting. I should have spent more time prospecting, or I should have spent less time. Like, and I can go through and say, okay, where is the waste in my business, and where can I fire myself from some of these tasks? And a lot of these things that we are doing, I went through and I realized, okay, this didn't have a positive correlation to any part of our business. Like it didn't increase our sphere of influence. It didn't give us any revenue. It didn't do anything other than it just was something I felt was required as part of this plan. So I axed it this year, and I'll be able to go forward and say, okay, did that work, or did I miss some hidden benefit that I wasn't quite aware of? Going through and having that kind of time metric allows you to get really granular and do year over year comparisons. So I can say, okay, in 2023, I did way more prospecting, or 2022, like, and you find that parts of your business start to outweigh the others as you get a certain level of scale, and it's not always in a positive way. Like right now, it probably makes sense for us to hire an underwriter. So if you're a fantastic underwriter and you're looking
Right.
for a job, reach out to Tom and myself. But 2 years ago, that didn't make sense. It was, I had time for it. So it's always good to kind of look at this thing, audit where you're at, and reevaluate based on where you are today, the person you are today, and the business you have today.
So I know you aren't waiting until, well, what is it, January 2nd today recording this? I don't even know anymore. My kids are at home. My life's a mess. You didn't wait till the new year to start this, right? I think you started it in December.
I audit myself. My birthday is December 12th. So I do my audit December every year on my birthday. It's like my thing. I just sit and do alone in the basement.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I kind of know going into the year what I'm looking at and what I'm striving to do. I don't like doing a ton of planning in January. I know some people are gung ho to do it. Like I started doing my non-negotiables yesterday. which
Yeah.
sometimes some people I called were like, yeah, take a day off, please. You've got, whatever. It's just, I'd rather be hustling. So,
Yeah, same here, man. My non-negotiables I set up in early December, and I started banging them out then. And I even did it like through the holidays, but like mine is a bit more non-evasive because I'm not calling people, I'm DMing people. And some of you listeners, you received a DM from me, so we're going to dive into that in a second. But I just want to go back to Toggle for a sec. If you like, since you've been auditing your time with Toggle, is there one thing, like I'm really curious, like for own business perspective, is there something that you've been spending a lot of time on that you're looking to remove or at least hire
underwriting,
help on? Underwriting?
underwriting is a big one. Um, Towards the start of the year, we were doing like the realtor update tracker sheet. That was a big
Yeah.
time suck when I look back on it. That didn't add a ton of value. Um, that's the big ones. There's very few things, like obviously the brokerage was a lot of work this year from like a in the admin
Yeah.
category, which I don't love doing admin, but it was a necessary evil to get the foundation set up. Going forward, that's going to be more of like prospecting, chatting with prospective agents, that kind of stuff. So that will change naturally, but really the big one I noticed was there's a ton of time spent underwriting, even looking at fulfillment. And we have someone on fulfillment. For times I had to jump into the file where I realized, okay, I've got to do some training on a few things here and there, so that I'm not in a fulfillment role at all.
Yeah, and we're both guilty of not really having like dedicated training. It's not her fault in those regards. Like sometimes like we should take accountability and like, hey, she might not know this question or the answer to this question. That should be a time for us to sit down and go through that. So I don't know, maybe that's something that we focus on this year is more training. So it takes off some more stuff from our plate. And for me, I would probably say email has been the biggest time suck for me. And I'm trying to, it's more of like I'm just always in it, where I'm just trying to like really take myself out of it and have like set times during the day, or at least be cognizant of how many times I'm checking my inbox. Like I do it as a habit all the time throughout the day. I don't even want to know how many times I open up my inbox, whether it's on my phone or whether it's on my browser or just sitting there. I'm horrible with that. So I know if I can cut down on email, it's going to free up a lot of time for me.
Yeah, I find email is a slippery slope because you get in there, it distracts you, it pulls you away from really focused work, and there's it's very hard in this industry to say, okay, I'm going to put my phone on do not disturb. You're good at that, but like,
Yeah.
if for me, I do a lot of calls and texts with agents and clients and stuff like that, and so if I don't have my phone on, then they miss that point of contact, or I miss them returning a call. So I don't like that. But then I get the email notification. So I was looking at things like there's this little tool called Brick where you can remove like apps off your phone and brick it out. Shipping to Canada is kind of expensive right now, so that's annoying, but the device itself isn't. But I was thinking even of like, putting a time lock on the parental guidance on my phone and saying, okay, you can only use email for 1 hour. You can only use social media for 30 minutes. And so that then be locked out of those things, locked out of the chess game, for example, like stuff like that, where if you can put these little measures in, sure, you can get around it if you really want to, but the more that you can discipline yourself and build in these kinds of roadblocks, the less the temptation's there.
Chess games, eh?
Oh, I love playing chess.
That's like the last thing I go and play on my phone.
It's an
Dude,
addiction.
one kind of like side tangent here. One thing I learned recently is I set up my phone to, if I click the hold button 3 times, like the whatever you call that button on the side, if I click it 3 times, it turns the screen into a grayscale. So it's just
Yeah.
gray coloring. And I do that whenever I just started doing this. Whenever I want to do like focused work, I'll click it 3 times. I always have my phone on do not disturb, so nobody can interrupt me at all. Like throughout the whole day, I always have that on. You know that. And the grayscale prevents me from going on my phone, checking email, checking text, going on Instagram, and it just has my head down. So I'm looking forward to trying that out.
Yeah, I used to use the grayscale a lot when I did more social media, because as soon as I started to scroll, I would just hit the grayscale, and then it's like very like your
It's
dopamine just fucking hates
yeah,
it. You're just like, oh, this sucks.
yeah.
This bikini picture is no longer nice.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not fun.
yeah,
That's the point though. Cool. All right. So now that I think we've hit audit your time pretty good there. Actually, one thing I will say that I'm doing is so at night now, part of my routine is I'd always clean up after the kids go to bed, and then I'd come down, relax, watch some maybe like a Netflix show with my wife. So part of that is I'm actually moving my time to sleep in a bit later instead of waking up really early. It sounds counterintuitive, but trust me, just hear me out. So I'm waking up later now, and that means I'm pushing more hours into the nighttime. So I have more time while the kids are asleep to bang out more work. So at night, I'm going to start with 1 hour a night, which is going to add 5 hours a week. And that's going to be my focus, like deep work that I'm going to have no interruptions with. Whereas like in the morning, I was trying to bang out an hour every morning at like between 5 to 6, but I found like it would just get interrupted with sometimes the kids wake up early. It's not always perfect. So at night, I know like they're down at that time. So I'm removing that wasted Netflix time essentially, and I'm getting more sleep. So it was a win-win.
Yeah, I like that. I do the same thing. Like my routine is we have dinner as a family. So I always cook dinner. And then the kids will like watch a show, do reading, whatever they want to do. And at that time, I just go back downstairs and I do like another hour to 2 hours of work. And your phone doesn't ring at that time of night. Like no one's calling you, no one's reaching out. A couple emails here and there, but nothing crazy. And I get so much done. And at that same time, I also outline the next day with everything I have to get done for that day. And
Nice.
so I wake up in the morning and I can just like pull up my notes app and I have it all listed there. And it's just like, hey, bang, bang, bang. And I know if I get those things done, it's a successful day. Any fires that come up, obviously got to deal with them, but it's nothing overwhelming.
Yeah, I find setting yourself up for the next day is really helpful, and even adding in some time on the weekends. I'm going to try doing that while the kids are having a nap. So I'm looking forward to just finding that deep work. I call it deep work. It's like your creative, the work that you're doing to work on the business. I'm trying to find more of that time through the week, and I've at least added 5 hours there on the weekend. I'm hoping to add another 2 to 3. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And I think if you have a clear vision and you know exactly what you need to do, there's no reason that you need to spend 40 to 60 hours a week in this business. Like I think you can get down to 30 hours, 30 to 40 very comfortably, even below that. Like I know when I'm really cooking and I'm locked in, I can do a 25-hour work week and get a ton of work done.
For sure, man. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And if you look at, like, I'm in a course right now for social media. Funny, I know we're going backwards, but what I'm doing in this course is they're teaching you how to like do the content research really effectively. And from what I've learned, I'm going to start doing this. You can bang out your research and your scripting for the quarter within 2 to 3 hours. And it's like really, really dialed in scripting. Like you're researching like viral hooks, like videos that are working within your content pillars. So if you can do that, like if you think about that, you can bang out your content scripting within 2 to 3 hours. Do that on one weekend, and you have your scripts for the quarter for 3 to 4 months. So there should be no excuse on. I'm just using social media as an example, but there should be no excuse to actually get the business activities done.
For sure. And I think I'm reading this book right now and it's called The War of Art. It's by Stephen Pressfield. I think that's what it's called. But he talks a lot about he's talking about writing as a general frame, but he talks a lot about resistance. And it's like, okay, you know the things you have to do, but there's something will come up. Like you feel like you need to sleep in, or you shouldn't do your workout today because of X, and your body and your mind can come up with all these different excuses. And he calls it the resistance, and fighting that resistance by just having the controls in place of, okay, my desk is set up for success. I've researched these topics. All I have to do is hit record and bang out the content. I don't have to reinvent the wheel every day. Limits the resistance to actually getting the work done and sets you up for the long-term success of being a professional.
That's a great tip, because what I've done in this podcast studio, my office, is I come in here. I literally just have to move. I mean, today was a bit more set up because my son just fucked around with everything, but I just have to move my one light and plug in my camera, turn it on, and I'm done. All the settings are already set in place, and it just removes the barrier to actually record content.
Exactly. And every time you can do that. So like That's a great example. Having all your scripts ready, like so that you sit down, that maybe there's one that pops up on your screen. Having something like when you open your phone, it goes straight to notes, whatever, anything like that that you can do limits the resistance. And then what you're doing is just building and stacking wins there. So even if you record a shitty, what you would deem a shitty piece of content, you don't have to put it out, but it's the act of doing it that
Yeah.
builds the habit and builds the consistency that way.
Speaking of habits, let's I mean this is kind of our third point, set your inputs. And what we mean by that is set your non-negotiables and figure out how many of X do you need to do? How many of X activities do you need to do to hit those goals? So we can maybe reverse engineer like an example volume goal and figure out like how many reps you got to do for that. We're gonna do this on the fly, so it might be rough, but I don't know, Brandon, like, do you want to start with like a random volume goal and kind of go backwards and see how many leads based off of a conversion rate that we need?
Yeah, so I can use mine as an example because I've got this pretty dialed in. But I wanted to hit 100 files in 2025. 2024, I hit 65, and my conversion rate from lead to funded file was just over 30%. So I know that I'm going to need about 330 leads this year, which is, taking in weekends and sick days or whatever. It's about a lead a day. So, factoring that in, I already know going into this week, I got a lead Jan 1. I didn't get
Yeah.
a lead yesterday. So if I don't get 2 leads today, I'm already off course. And I'm doing realtor calls, I'm doing social media, DMs. So I can kind of be able to gauge with my January leads if those inputs are having results. Obviously, there's going to be times like April, May, June kind of thing where I might get 2 to 3 leads a day for a stretch that'll make up for a slower time in January where people are on vacation or are not really focused on their work. But in my mind, I know that, okay, these are my inputs. If I'm doing them and they're working, or if they're not working, I have very clear data that they're not working and that I need to double down or change what that input is.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you need is it 300 leads a year?
I
Three,
think 300 leads if I do the tweaks that I'm going to do to my client journey.
okay.
I think my conversion rate will go up from 30%.
Yeah.
Also, like filtering out who I'm working with. So, a lot of partners I was working with, I audited them as well. And if their conversion rate wasn't a certain level, or if they had a lot of clients leave at the 11th hour, it tells me that they have something in their process. So, I'm going to talk to them. If they don't tweak it, or if I don't notice a change, I'm just going to cut them from my orbit. And one of you can pick them up as a realtor partner. So,
Yeah, that's a good idea. I do have a couple in mind on my side of things that I do need to have a chat with too, because one of them does like some online lead gen, and that's really hurting my conversion rate just from the one partner. But do you like going back to your lead input and your activities? Do you know how many of the activities you need to get one lead? Like, have you figured that out, or is that like super simple?
not really. So I know if I call 10 realtors today, I'll get a lead. I know that works. That's always worked for me. Uh, that being said, like if I do that, chances are I'm going to get stuck on a phone call for half an hour that might derail
Right.
something else in my day. So I don't always want to be relying on that. That's something that works, but is only scalable to a certain extent. I'm looking to continue doing that to a certain point, like maybe 2 to 3 calls um, to my top partners, and then having something like social media that cooks in the background. Like my first home savings account video got me several leads that way. So content like that people share, um, that brings people into my orbit, and it warms them up a bit more too than just a realtor connecting them.
Yeah, agreed, man. Love it. Really cool piece that you got some leads off of like one of your first social pieces of the year or posts of the year. Very cool to see. We're excited for that. Like you're not going all in on social by any means, but you're just kind of like just staying top of mind by posting regular content and showing people that you're alive essentially.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do 2 posts a week. If I do that, that should be taking 2 weeks vacation or whatever. It should be about 100 pieces of content a year. I'm not gonna try to be like your level of scale there, or like a Samantha Powers or anyone else in that respect. But it should do enough to be like my business card or website that's out there, and I'm really
Exactly. Yeah, I love it. I think it's good play. Cool. All right. So why don't we talk about our last point here? Outline your day. Actually, before we go there, one piece on the non-negotiables and your daily habits. I talked about this on my most recent solo episode. But one thing that will really, really help with this is having accountability tied into your daily activities, your non negotiables. And what we're doing, I talked about on the last episode, we have our accountability group within Tango. But obviously, if you're not with Tango, you might not have that. So, one thing you can do, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, is find that one person, that one agent, broker within your industry that you're either friends with or you think aligns very similarly with your goals and your behavior and how you treat your business. Find that person and maybe like create your own accountability group. Maybe it's a realtor partner. Maybe you just hop on a daily Zoom call for a half hour and bang it out. I think like having that accountability piece is very crucial because we've been guilty of it in the past. Even having each other, we've been guilty of it in the past by not actually sticking to our non-negotiables, but setting that accountability by heading into like a Zoom room every day. That will help.
For sure. And we have that checklist that you built out that we give all our agents. So if you're looking for something like that, you're always welcome to join Team Tango, and have that accountability built in for you. But I think doing stuff like that and saying I could literally say to you and you could say to me, hey, pull up your non-negotiables list and show me how your month went. And you could say, oh, you didn't make any of your calls. Like, you can't complain about your business. So it really holds you to where you're at. It also sets you up for success because you don't set goals that are just like lofty goals that make you feel good. Sometimes it feels good for me to say I'm going to get a six pack this year. That would feel great, but we know it's not going to happen. It's not based in reality. Whereas I can say, okay, I'm going to hit 50 million this year by doing X. That actually can happen and does have some grounding in reality if I take the required steps. If I pull up your non-negotiable list because we share a drive in March and you're not doing any of the things on your list and your volume's way off, we're going to know why that is. And so it's the accountability piece. A lot of it is not just having someone who you share it with, it's having someone you don't want to let down. I think is a
Yeah.
big, it can't just be um okay, I'm gonna share my stats in a call. It has to be someone that you feel like, I don't want to disappoint this person, or I don't want to disappoint this team. That's when the real success starts coming.
Yeah, and I've found that as much as you want it to be this way, it's very hard to just say, "Oh, you know what? I know I'm not going to let myself down." No, none of us want to do that, but it doesn't have enough accountability to it. Like you like having that external factor of someone else, it's going to push the needle a lot more in helping you keep consistent with that accountability or with the inputs.
For sure. All right, so let's jump into outlining your day, because this is where things can really thrive or they can fall off the rails. Is if you don't have proper planning of doing all these things in a day passes and you realize you've only done one or two of them.
Yeah. So what we actually have a very similar day, and this was really cool. We crafted our daily outline, and Brandon, you did some research on the back end and went all AI on us and
Hey,
went to ChatGPT, and you basically figured out that AI and ChatGPT is recommending you to do the daily outline that you've already set up based off of the prompts you were giving it. So why don't you dive in a bit more into that and tell us how you did that?
yeah, so I did like my goals that I was talking about, the different pillars, so my business goal X. So I wrote it all out. It's a document. I read it every day when I start my day. I have like what I call the entrepreneur's prayer, which is like a prayer I wrote. I have my like my goals. I read them every morning before I start my workday. So I was like, I saw this thing on Instagram, and it was this girl being like, um, yeah, so I put, if you want to like manifest your goals, whatever, I put this chat GBT prompt, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of corny, but like, I'm really curious to see what it would say about my mortgage business. So I took my goals and I just copied and pasted the whole thing. I put in chat GBT, show me my life if with these goals, if I achieve these goals. And it wrote out like a nice narrative that was very motivating. And then I said, okay, break down my day with these of the steps required to take it. and it was very close to my like actual scheduled day. And then I was like, okay, change the schedule for someone who goes to bed at midnight, wakes up at 7, has family time from 8 to 9. And like I put in all like my unique parameters, and it spat out like exactly our schedule with like the prospecting hour, like everything that we do was very granular. And I was like, okay, this is kind of creepy, but also really cool, and also indicative that our planning is getting to a point where we're actually probably on pace. We just have to see it through now.
Yeah, and this took like since we started in the business, like what my first year, I never thought about like how I was crafting my day, and then maybe year two is like, okay, maybe I'll kind of dedicate this towards that. Maybe I'll do afternoon calls, whatever the case is. And then as the years progress, as like, no, I need to set maybe from 1 to 4 p.m. That's the only time block I have for clients that can book a call. So we've really narrowed it down and crafted over the year, and we're really years, and we're really confident that we have our daily outline, and this works for us personally. It's not going to be the same for you, but what we have is we start our day, and this might be different for you, by the way, Brandon. But I start my day at 9 a.m. for emails. From 9 to 10 is emails and file work. So sometimes emails might only take 20 minutes, and then I can jump into a file. Sometimes it's longer. But from 9 to 10, emails and file work, which is like the urgent stuff. Then from 10 to 11 is our prospectors hour. So we're getting our non-negotiables done during that time. From 11 to 12, I hop back into file work and the odd email if there are any. And from 12 to 1:30, sometimes 2, I'll have my workout. And then from 2 to 4:30 or 5 is my blocked off time for client calls. And then my deep work, my creative work, that's all done at night and on the weekends.
Nice. Yeah. I have to pull mine up, but it's very similar up until about noon. And then where I'm tweaking mine is so I have like a family block from 8 to 9, but part of my family pillar is like to always be there to bring my daughter to school and pick her up from school. It's just something I like to do. So it gives us half hour together on each side of the day. Kind of bookends my day and reminds me what's important to me. But then I like to get all of my deep work done right away, because that's when my brain is sharp. So you'll notice in my calendar, you can't bother me for the first hour of the day. I don't take any meetings. I don't take any calls in there.
What time is that?
From 9 to 10.
Okay, cool.
So I get to my desk, I do everything that way. And then if I've done it, or if I'm like outline my rest of my day the night before, I know that I go from there to doing some underwriting stuff from 10 to 11, prospecting from there, and then afternoon client calls start coming.
We got our prospectors hour 10 to 11, bro.
It's 10 to 11. Sorry.
You're giving up on us already. What the fuck?
Yeah. So I quit prospecting. No, I'm kidding. My timeline mixed up. But yeah, so like the prospecting hour, everything basically that is a non-negotiable is done before noon.
Yeah.
And then anything that's like a meeting or a client session is all afternoon, because by that point, if you've done a lot of deep work, your brain's kind of shot for doing deep stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're now just set up, okay, if I have to go to a meeting, I don't have to be firing on all cylinders. As bad as that sounds, it's just the reality.
Yeah, and if I didn't have kids, like kids are a priority for my kids are a priority for me, like yourself. From 8 to 9 is my time with the kids, dropping them off at school. And then from the 4:30 to 5 is the same thing. And then 5 onwards is all family. But if I didn't have kids, then I would be doing the deep work and the non-negotiables right away in my business. Like I would probably be doing it at least starting at 8 o'clock and doing it from there. But you have to be flexible. Like not everyone's going to have the same lifestyle and same circumstances. So you just got to play with it and see what works for you.
For sure. And that's an important note you made there in outlining your day. You have to be flexible, because something's going to pop up where a file needs your attention, or your kid calls from daycare or school and they're sick, or whatever. Like there's so many things that can go wrong in a day. And so if you say, okay, my prospecting is only this 1 hour. Well, if something pops up and you miss that, then do you skip prospecting that day? that's not good for your business. So you want to have these blocks that you can then shift around and not always be shifting. Like try to establish some consistency because that does help with the resistance piece. But make sure that you give yourself some grace there as well, because otherwise you'll be that person who doesn't hit any of their goals because they feel bad that they missed their fast on January 1st. So they're never going to try again for the next 364 days.
Yeah, great point. Cool. Anything else to add before we wrap it up?
No, let's just do a little recap.
Go for it, buddy.
All right. So key takeaways from today are: set your goals, be very clear and concise. Don't go more than 1 to 2 overall or 1 to 2 per category. If you're like me, audit your time, remove waste where you can, pour gasoline on areas that are suffering, and just constantly be looking at this because it's going to provide a lot of insight into your business. Set your inputs, measure those inputs, see what's working, add more if it's not working, or tweak if it's really failing, and outline and time block your day so you're not missing your non-negotiable blocks. It doesn't matter if you have to shift them here and there, but make sure you have them in place. That's our roadmap to hit your goals in 2025. If you have any tips and insights of your own, please share them with us. And if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review, and we would really appreciate that. Have an awesome year, and we'll catch you soon.
Cheers.